In this video, we'll be looking at this laptop for phones and mini PCs. This is from a company called Favpista. They did send the sample for review, but as always, has an unaffected opinion anyway. So this is essentially a portable monitor with a built-in touchscreen and keyboard. For this reason, I think it's ideal for mini PCs, as it said, but I think it works well with tablets or phones. If you want to duplicate the monitor or just work on a bigger display like in the photo, I think it'd be a little bit silly to use this as a laptop because it already has a built-in keyboard, but I'm sure it's compatible with that as well. We'll just go ahead and get into the box and see everything that's inside. So it looks like the first thing is just a sort of user manual. Another one. Then we have the actual display itself. Then a bunch of different cables at the bottom, which is nice. A USB-C power adapter, a USB-C to USB-A cable, USB-C to USB-C. Looks like mini HDMI to HDMI. And then another USB-C to USB-C. This one will likely be the one going to your device. So essentially everything you'd expect to have included with the portable monitor and everything you kind of need to get up and running. Looking at the actual device itself, it definitely feels and looks like a laptop overall. It really is kind of the weight of a laptop as well. We have the USB-C port on the side and the mini HDMI. And then on this side, the USB-C port, a headphone jack, a micro SD card slot, as well as a power button. So it really looks and feels like a laptop. If this was actually a proper laptop, it'd look really nice. It is kind of a fully metal enclosure, so I wish I had the brain of a laptop because it'd be very thin and really good looking overall. But that's just sort of a testament to the build quality of it. It is a fully metal enclosure and just looks and feels really good. We even have some little rubber feet on the bottom just to prevent your desk from getting scratched and all that, so it definitely looks really good. We can just go ahead and open it up here like this. Again, just like a laptop. Looks even more like it now, of course. So definitely some very oversized keys here, like this escape button, for example, is really big, but I think it looks really good overall. It's very easy to type on, has some pretty good feedback to it. Not too loud, but definitely enough that you kind of know you're pushing the button, not one of those just kind of mushy membrane keyboards. It's actually like a proper keyboard that you'd expect to find on a laptop, which is nice. We also have the trackpad at the bottom here, and the clicking is pretty decent as well. It's definitely a bit plasticky, but I think it still looks and feels really good overall, and again, a lot better than I was expecting for sure. On the top here, we have a nice size speaker grill as well. We'll do an actual audio test in a second. It looks like we have some LEDs hidden in there as well, just to show you your power indicator and that sort of thing. Definitely a really solid setup. Again, you could convince a lot of people this is actually a proper laptop, but we'll go ahead and get it all set up and show you what it looks like. Alright, to start we have it connected to a Windows device. This is our Windows laptop right here. One USB-C cable is running from the laptop to this monitor here. So as you can see from the start, this just kind of works as a laptop essentially now. Again, I said it's a little bit silly to connect to a laptop. I'm just going to showing for a proof of concept. So if this were like a mini PC or something that does not have a built-in display or keyboard, then this would be super convenient. So as you can see, it works really well. Honestly, this trackpad feels a lot better than my ThinkPad trackpad, which is what this laptop is. So really solid overall for the trackpad. It's a little bit plastic, as I said, but the feeling of it is really good. It really glides around easily. And of course we can like type and do all that as well. So it's just essentially like duplicating our laptop. But the interesting part is this is also a touchscreen. So we can actually go ahead and like click on things, which my laptop can't do. So all of this is a new functionality from my laptop. So it's even potentially a better laptop than my current one, because it's just mirroring the laptop and adding a touchscreen. So really cool functionality there, but the touchscreen only works on Windows devices and Android. So if you're using an Apple device like an iPhone, an iPad, or a Mac, it will not work. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but of course the keyboard and trackpad still will. So if you really want to use the touchscreen compatibility on a MacBook, for example, it just won't work, unfortunately. But if you're using it on Windows or Android, you're good to go. So this is what it looks like when it's not connected to anything. It does have a built-in battery, so it's going to actually display this all the time, even if it's not plugged into anything. Right now this USB-C cable is going to nothing, but we'll just go ahead and connect a iPad here. So this will actually start charging the iPad because this has a built-in 10,000 milliamp hour battery, and now we'll have the duplicate of the iPad screen. From here, we'll essentially act like a keyboard case that has a built-in monitor. So the trackpad will work both on this monitor, but also the iPad over here. So when I go to the iPad, we can just scroll down a little bit, and we'll be controlling the iPad over here. So really it's just making the iPad like a laptop, which is nice. You have access to all of your controls and everything. And then you have the full keyboard to use as well, so you don't have to worry about typing on the iPad screens. So depending on what you're doing, it's definitely a lot more convenient than using the iPad. As I said, the touchscreen does not work, unfortunately, so you won't be able to tap on things on the actual screen here. But essentially it's just like turning your iPad into a MacBook, which isn't too bad. For the display quality, I would say it's good but not great. I think in part of that is because of the glare. As you can see my hand here almost perfectly. There's a lot of glare coming off of this screen. As compared to the iPad here, there's a little bit, but I would say this really has a lot of glare to the actual screen. And that will also come with a lot of fingerprints because it is also a touchscreen, of course. The resolution is decent at 1080p. It's not going to be a huge deal on this small of a screen, but if you get really close, you're able to actually see the individual pixels and stuff. But I would say this nitpicking, you do have to get really close, like probably this close to the screen in order to see them. So that's only if you're really looking for them. But for example, coming from the iPad, you definitely notice the lower resolution. The other thing is the brightness. I think that's probably the weakest point of this, honestly. Right now you can see my iPad is already brighter than this device, and you can see the iPad's brightness here is less than half, and this one is actually on the maximum brightness here. So that part's a bit unfortunate. I do wish it got brighter, and that would also probably help with the glare as well. So that's something to keep in mind, but it does have a lot of other cool features, so it just kind of depends on what your priorities are. In terms of the speaker quality, we'll go ahead and do a quick test here. I will say the speaker quality on this is a lot better than I was expecting. Again, it is kind of a full bar at the top here, so it also gets pretty loud. Especially if you're actually facing the display, it kind of bounces off the screen here and goes up towards you, which makes it sound really good overall. It's definitely a lot better than I was expecting, so it gained some points back there. Another kind of cool feature about this is that if you don't want to use the keyboard, you're able to actually bend it back like this, and it will just serve as a portable monitor or even a touchscreen still, of course, as well. So it's pretty cool. If you want to have a second touchscreen monitor, you're able to kind of put the keyboard like that. It will serve as a stand. Then you just have a nice second monitor. So overall, I think it's a pretty interesting device. It's definitely not perfect. I could see it being useful for someone that has a really mini PC and wants to kind of bring it around and use it as a laptop. Depending on the device, this will actually be enough to power it because it has a built-in battery, and it will connect, of course, just via USB-C pretty easily. And if you don't want to connect via USB-C or your device doesn't support it, there's also the HDMI port, so it's pretty versatile in that sense. I also really like that it has the micro SD card slot in the side. I think that's a bit unexpected, but definitely a really cool feature to have. We also have a traditional headphone jack, which can be pretty useful as well. So this scenario I see being really useful is if you have an Android phone and you just kind of want to make the screen a lot bigger, or if you're going to be going to a coffee shop, you just want to bring this little device and your phone, you're going to be able to actually get a lot of work done essentially off of your phone, which is pretty cool. It's going to give you a full-size keyboard and a trackpad that are both going to work really well. The keyboard and trackpad are a lot more solid than I was expecting, which is super nice. So this also can be seen as an inexpensive way to turn your smartphone into a laptop. So it's very easy to connect devices via USB-C. The trackpad works really well. It has a great keyboard. Even the speaker sounds pretty good, and the touchscreen works really well. I would say the only sort of downside I could think of is that the actual display quality isn't the best. In part due to the glare, but also due to the brightness, and just the overall resolution definitely could be a little bit better. I think making it a bit more matte and turning up the brightness would solve like half of the problem. But again, you do notice the 1080p resolution if you're used to higher. That depends on the person. Again, it's not like you're using a 24-inch monitor at 1080p. It is a pretty small device, so it is hard to notice, but I would say it still is a factor. So given the pros and cons, I wouldn't say this is for everyone. This is a pretty unique device that can be really useful with the right setup.